Hey, look at this. I got my camera on my Surface Pro fixed. It took a 2 hour phone call with a Microsoft tech in Morocco, but he was patient and had tenacity, and he knew finally he figured it out and got it up and running. And I'm very grateful to the Lord for that. As silly as it seems, it's just I'm just thankful because the technology is not essential, but it sure is nice. So, anyway, just happy to report what probably, if I was you, it wouldn't matter very much. Sure, not changing your life. But anyway, here we are. I have a young friend. I say he's young. He's younger than me by a lot, who is now in seminary. He was a Marine, and he is into weightlifting and bodybuilding. And oh my goodness, this guy, oh, he's not tall. He's no taller than me, which normally bodybuilding, if you're going to enter a competition as a bodybuilder, that tall, kind of like Tarzan kind of figure is kind of preferred. But man, he is absolutely ripped. But he didn't get ripped by wishing he was more muscled. He got ripped from literally thousands of hours of lifting and intentional training. And I don't think he's probably going to get into any more bodybuilding competitions, although he might. But he is still dedicated to the training regimen for his weightlifting and general fitness. And it is not, I mean, I hate weightlifting. It's painful unless you put so little weight on it that it doesn't matter, well, that's the nature of training. See, training is not, sometimes training may be a little bit pleasant. It's mainly fulfilling, but almost never pleasant. Well, Paul writes about training, and we've looked at it briefly in 1 Timothy 4 yesterday. Verse 8, he says, "For physical training is of some value." Yeah, I talked about that. "But godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come." That deserves a little bit of unpacking. But godliness, training for godliness, has value for all things. Is there an aspect of our life and experience that is not somehow connected to, or that's not even the right word, but our godliness doesn't relate to? Our godliness connects with, relates to every aspect of our life with decision making. And I think that relationships come out of decision making and call for decision making. Your work life, absolutely. Excuse me. I'll even say your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health. There is no part of my life, no part of your life that godliness doesn't connect with. And I would even say, though training for godliness holds challenges, especially in a culture that's becoming more and more and more post-Christian, And you don't have to go very far, even within our country, to discover that there are people who they don't have legal grounds, although there are states where Christians are being targeted. Okay, and you can take that for whatever you want. If you think I'm making a political statement, I don't really care. I'm just stating a reality that godliness, training ourselves for godliness, it has value for all things, Paul writes. Now, if you think about this, I'm still back on this training thing because it just matters. And I'm thinking about football now because it's just the easiest illustration. If a team is not trained well, when they hit a rough patch in a game or a season, they'll fold. They don't have anything to draw from because their training has not been intense enough to prepare them for the adversity that the game will produce. Well, isn't that true of life? I am very, I think the term is I'm concerned. I'm not worried about it so much as concerned that so many parents today they're not giving their kids the advantage of training. They're doing everything for their kids. And so when their kids hit a patch of adversity, they don't know what to do. They fold. I see this among Christians as well, who, for them, their faith doesn't have very much to do with godliness and almost nothing to do with training for godliness. And so when they hit a patch of adversity in life, they'll fold. You see, if my journey of faith is all about God making me more and more happy all the time, and me being able to pretty much do what I want, that's bad theology, number one. And number two, how do you train for adversity under that schema? You don't. Paul says, godliness has value in all things, for all things. And then he says, it holds promise for both the present life and the life to come. Now, let's talk about these. These are two separate things. The present. You are going to have trouble. Now, Jesus said it. In this world, you will have trouble. But he says, take heart. I have overcome the world. In this life, you're going to experience adversity. And there's quite a scale on adversity. Everything from this is harder than I want it to be to, excuse me, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. The apostles are great examples of having lived through and in adversity with godliness. So one of the things that godliness does not provide in this life is always a happy ending. Sorry. I mean, it didn't for Jesus. Well, okay, let me back up. When you come down to the real ending, we haven't even seen the real ending yet. The ending is when he returns, not as a helpless infant born in a barn, but as the mighty King of Kings and the warrior among warriors, the lead warrior, the strongest warrior, the courageous warrior, wielding a sword. The sword, it actually comes out of his mouth. When you look at at the word picture that John drew of the returning, reigning King of Kings, Jesus, at the end of all time, oh my goodness, gives me chills. Yeah, okay. Now, that's not even the ending. The ending is when the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, when he destroys his enemies for a final time in a final battle, time ends and the life to come begins. That's a happy ending. But to get to the happy ending, Jesus' earthly life didn't end happily. It ended in an agonizing death, in which he quoted a psalm because it best expressed, I believe, what was in his heart, in his mind, what he was feeling and thinking when he said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, meaning, my God, why have you forsaken me? I wouldn't call that a happy ending. To me, that's at the far end of the scale of adversity. Now, I'm not predicting that all of us are going to wind up at the far end of adversity, but some who've clicked up Soul Care with Stevie Boy today are toward that on the scale of adversity. Godliness, what did he say? How did he say it? He said, godliness has value, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. Godliness has value because it holds promise for this present life. The promise is not, it's all going to work out. No. The promise is, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Jesus said, I am with you always, even to the end of the world, or the end of the age, depending on what version you look at. Godliness, one of the aspects of godliness is this unbroken, close, intimate fellowship, relationship, friendship with God. I think as our lives develop and the process grows in us of training ourselves to be godly, we will experience more and more of the reality of God's love and presence in our lives. Is it that He will give us more of His presence? I don't think so. I think He has already given me and you His full, abundant, unspeakable presence. But this journey of training to be godly, it sets us where we will be able to experience it on a deeper level, more clearly. And in this life, when you are going to have adversity, wow, this is a very, very important promise, that godliness has such value and holds such promise in times of adversity. Godliness doesn't make adversity go away, but it makes me able to not fold and not cave in and not buckle when adversity comes. Train yourself to be godly. Well, I don't know. I'll probably talk even more about this training for godliness, but I'm done for today. We'll come back to this again next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.